Hi y'all, and welcome back to Dash's Sous-Vide Kitchen. Today we're going to cook a vegetable lasagna. So this dish is somewhat a little bit of time consuming, and preparation is going to need to go into it. But I want to go ahead and get started today because we have a lot to do to get this lasagna prepped and ready and built and in the oven. We're going to start off by preheating our oven at 350 degrees. And I'm doing 350 because I'm using a glass dish. And most of this, again, is all vegetables. There's no meat in it. We're going to use a bechamel sauce. I'm going to make that for you today. We're going to do this in a couple of stages. First, right now, I'm going to go ahead and put my lasagna noodles in. If you want to come over here and take a look, that'd be great. So you can use whatever brand of lasagna noodle you like. Now, I do have a technique of putting my noodles in the pot that I like to do. Now, I will caution you, be careful with these noodles because they'll break. If they do, it's okay, but you want to kind of keep those noodles together. I kind of put my noodles in almost like a star, and the reason I do that is because I'm going to take a pair of tongs and gently tap them down until they get under that water. Now, as you put your noodles in, the water's going to stop boiling a little bit. It's going to slow down. And I'll show you why I do this in just a moment. But those noodles are too big for my pot. Now, if you got a bigger pot, then that's fine and dandy. Again, this is for a reason. I'm gonna get these in here. Let's talk about the cook time while we're doing that. The cook time for these, I'm gonna cook about 8 minutes. Now, that won't get the noodle done. It's gonna be super al dente. And the reason I like to do that is because the noodle's going to continue to cook once you add that sauce and get it in the oven. And if you cook it too much, the noodle is going to just become mush. And you don't want no mushy noodle because then that's just a mess within itself, let me tell you. Just keep pushing them down. That hot water is going to make them soft enough to get them pushed down. You know what I mean? Sometimes you might have to wait for that to come back up. Now, I have about 5 or 6 noodles left. Now what I'm going to do is, if you'll watch, I'm going to take this noodle, the top one, and I'm going to curl it around my pan like this, and I'm going to stand it up on its side. And the reason I've starred them like that is because I can see and I know that they're not on top of each other, and it's a lot easier to do that. Now I'm going to go ahead and start my timer. I said about 8 minutes. I'm going to put it on 7 minutes because I've been talking about a minute, and you know, I can talk a lot and lose track of time, and that ain't no good. So I'm gonna put it on 7 minutes. That way we can get these noodles going, and then I can get my onions and my garlic sauteing. I'm gonna saute some mushrooms. Now let me talk about that while I'm putting these noodles in here. The reason I like to do some sauteing to those onions and those mushrooms, now there's nothing wrong with the raw onion, but the mushrooms would just not be the right texture in the lasagna if you just slice them and put them in. I mean, it's fine if you like that, but I prefer to saute them. And so that's what we're going to be doing today, is sauteing those onions. But it's just my own little technique. Look at there, I broke a noodle. I broke a little corner off. Makes me sad. This is just my own little technique that I've taught myself over the years, and it allows me to get all my noodles in there, and then it gets them to cooking. And like I said, they have to boil. Now once that comes back to a boil, I'm gonna put this on my back rear eye. And I'm just gonna keep an eye on them. I'm gonna kind of separate them back and forth. Make sure that they don't cook together, get stuck. Now what I've done is I put about 5 quarts of water in this pan, and I got it boiling before I started talking to y'all. And I put probably about a teaspoon of salt in here. And a little bit of oil. That way, the noodles don't stick. Salt gives it a little bit of flavor, and the noodles cook just perfect. So I'm gonna put that on the back eye, and now I'm gonna get started on sauteing my mushrooms and my onions. Now we're gonna use probably about 2 tablespoons of butter to get started. Now remember that measuring technique I showed you? I got my little butter measurements down. I memorized my sticks of butter. So I'm gonna use about 2 tablespoons of butter in the onions, and I'm gonna do about 3 tablespoons of butter in the mushroom pan. Now, I'm also cooking these in separate pans today because mushrooms need room to brown, okay? If you get them too crowded, they're not gonna brown properly, they're not gonna cook right, and they're gonna be ugly. And so I'm just gonna do my onions and garlic until they're a little translucent. And then once that's done, I'm just gonna take them off the heat for a little bit, and then we're gonna get started on our sauce. Okay, so my butter is now hot and melted. I'm gonna add a little bit of oil to it. Butter and olive oil together is really good. Probably about a tablespoon to that. That's gonna be hot, and I'm gonna add my mushrooms. Now this is about 2 cups of mushrooms. I'm gonna get them going. Get those little mushrooms out of there, they're stuck in there. Now that's gonna take a few minutes to get sauteing. Just gonna get those down. And now I'm gonna add my onions. This is a 1/2 cup of onions, and get those sauteing. Not gonna add my garlic yet. Now you can use a clove of garlic, or you can use about a teaspoon of, minced garlic. Depending on what you like, you can measure it out. You can do a 1/2 teaspoon, but I'm gonna use a teaspoon today. But I'm not gonna add that yet because if you put your garlic to, and especially the minced garlic, it's going to burn. And I want my onions to get that translucent piece to it first. So we're gonna let these mushrooms saute for about 5 minutes altogether. We're gonna constantly give those a stir so they don't burn. We're gonna cook them on a medium-high heat. We're also gonna saute the onions on a medium-high heat. So my timer's going off for my noodles to be done, and we're gonna start prepping those while these continue to saute. I'm gonna bring my pot of water over carefully, and I'm gonna put them over here in my strainer. If you see, they're kind of like already there on the side. And I'm gonna fill this up with cold water to cool them off a little bit. And then I'm going to oil my pan. I have a cookie sheet. And I'm going to oil my pan. Now I'm going to pour them out. Just like that. Okay? Now, while those are cooling under that water. Now they're very al dente. Now, remember my little gadget here? My little earth-friendly, aerosol-free olive oil air pump. So I'm going to use. So just give a light spray to the pan. This will help keep the noodles from sticking. Grab your first noodle, it's not too hot, and I have a bowl of ice cold water here. I'm gonna dip those in there so they stop cooking. Just a couple of seconds is all it needs. And I'm gonna lay those noodles out, and this takes just a few minutes. So when I get done with this, I'll be right back. So I'm almost done with those noodles, and my onions and my mushrooms are still sauteing. I'm gonna get ready to add my garlic to my onions, so I'm gonna put that in there. You can hear it. They start screaming a little bit. I'm just going to give that a little toss around. Just like that. Give that just a minute in there. My onion is done. I'm going to add them to my mushrooms just like that, okay? Now I'm going to give these just a little toss. Give those a good mixture. Now look how beautiful those mushrooms are. Look at those golden brown edges that happen there. Now what I'm going to do, these are done. I'm just going to take them off the heat and put them in a bowl. And I'm going to let them rest. And we'll be back in just 1 minute. Got my noodles over here, and if you take a look, I've kind of got mostly everything set up. This is kind of what that mise en place word means. Having everything in place and ready to go. So we have our lasagna noodles, my spinach, my mozzarella cheese, my ricotta cheese and eggs. I'm gonna mix that together for you. I've got my vegetables ready. And remember, those are not cooked. We want those to stay raw. So when we get done with our bechamel sauce, we're gonna get that ready and pour that together. So with that being said, let's get started on the sauce. Let's have a little drink of wine first. So come on over to my stove and let me show you how to get this bechamel sauce started. So it's very easy. The first thing you want to do is to make a roux. And if you're saying, well, Dash, what is a roux? A roux is the start, it's the base to making a gravy, to soups, and to sauces. So that's what we've done. And so it's very easy to start. You want to start with just your basic fat, which can be an oil, the droppings from a meat, like if you sear it, and then flour. And you want to use equal parts to do that. So I've added a half a cup of butter and melted that down in my pot. And I have a half a cup of flour here. Now I'm going to turn the heat back up because I didn't want my butter to burn, but I've got it melted. Once this heats up a little bit, I'm going to add my roux and I'm going to take a whisk and I'm going to keep it going. And then we're going to cook that for about 2 or 3 minutes. And then we're going to add our milk to it, which I forgot to put together. So while this is heating right back up, I'm going to grab that milk and I'll be right back. Okay, so now we're back and I've got my butter up to heat. I'm going to add my flour. Add a little bit at a time. And I'm going to constantly start that put in there. And again, we're cooking this flour and oil together. Equal parts, half a cup of fat, half a cup of flour. And if you can see that right there, now we're going to cook it together and we're going to turn that to a medium heat. A medium heat, please. Don't want to cook it too fast because you're going to burn the flour, then it'll turn real brown. Okay, now that that is ready, now I don't want you to add all of this at one time. We're going to add just a little bit at a time, just a little bit in first. Now we're going to see how that thickens up like that right there. That's exactly what we want it to do. Now we're going to turn that heat off and we're going to remove the pan. Just like that. Looks like a paste, right? Now we can add the rest of this milk all at once, okay? And that whisk is going to break all this up. Just be a little patient. As you can see, it's breaking up. And now that we've got that milk in there, we're going to add it back to the heat. We're going to take it down to a medium-low heat because we don't want it to come up to heat too fast because then it'll get too thick. Now, if this becomes too thick, just add a little more milk to it. Add a little bit more of your liquid to it and that will thin it out. And we don't want it to be a gravy, so it needs to have the consistency of like an Alfredo sauce, okay? Now remember, we are going to add a 3/4 cup of Parmesan cheese to this, and that's going to actually thicken it up as well. So we want to make sure that it's sauce consistency, like an Alfredo sauce, and not too thick, because when we pour this over our vegetables, we don't want it to be thick. It needs to be like a sauce, okay? Now, here's a couple of things you want to do to start seasoning it. You want to do just a pinch of salt. Now, I told y'all I'm heavy on the salt and I like it, but I'm going to tell y'all today, when I say a pinch, I literally take 2 fingers and pinch that salt and no more, okay? Because there's going to be a lot of salt in this Parmesan cheese. We're going to add a little bit of white pepper, not black pepper. Probably about 1/4 teaspoon. And then we're going to add this one right here, and I'm so excited about it because that's one of my favorite spices. Nutmeg. Just take your little nut there, just like that. You're gonna hold it over the pan, and you're gonna give it a couple of scrapes. Now you don't want to add too much because we don't want it tasting like pumpkin pie. It's just it's a secret ingredient almost. I'm just gonna sprinkle some in there, just like that. That should be good enough for you to see. Now, once you've got that in there, and you want to mix that up and incorporate it, get all that in there like that. You can see the little specks are in there, but that's okay because they're going to blend in with those vegetables. All right, there we go. That's just perfect. Now I have my 3/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. I told y'all before, I like cheese. I don't have a problem with cheese, and this has got a lot of cheese in it. So we're going to put that in there. All of it. Just put it all in there. Okay, so now I have my sauce done. I'm gonna bring it over to my build your station. This is my station where I'm gonna work at. And so earlier I prepared my vegetables, and if you'll take a look, I've got them all nice bite sizes. You don't want them to be too big because this is gonna be a lasagna and it needs to lay, you know, equally around on top of those noodles. Now, while I'm gonna pour this sauce over these noodles, I want you to know that if you're using frozen noodles, I'm just gonna pour them over there like that. See all that wonderful sauce? Look how beautiful that is. Yes, thank you, Jesus, for some bechamel sauce. Hallelujah. Now I'm just gonna fold that in there because this hot sauce is gonna start cooking those vegetables. And this is what I wanna tell you. Oh, Lord have mercy. Look at that. Yes, ma'am. Sweet. Oh, that just smells lovely. I wish y'all could smell through the phone. And here's the thing about this. It is so flexible. You can, it's adaptable to any type of vegetables you want. You can use whatever you have in your refrigerator, in your pantry, or in your vegetable box. Today I'm using broccoli, cauliflower, carrots, snow peas, and that's enough vegetables for me. I'm gonna use some spinach as well. I love spinach, but you can use bell pepper, squash, zucchini, and you can taper it and adapt it to what you like yourself. You can use any vegetables, and peppers are really good in it. So I have that all set and ready to go. What we're gonna do next is I almost forgot to add my onions and mushrooms. So I'm gonna add those in there real quick. And I'm gonna fold that in there. Lord have mercy. I promise y'all, if my head wasn't connected to my shoulders, I'd lose it. I just love mushrooms and onions. Yes, ma'am. All right, so we've got a lot of the harder work out of the way. What we're gonna do next while this cools, well, it's really hot, so those vegetables are starting to cook. Now that's why I was gonna tell you, leave them raw. Don't cook them because they're gonna cook by that sauce, and what they don't do, they're gonna finish cooking when you bake the lasagna. We're gonna go ahead and get ready to make our ricotta mix, and it's simple, just real simple. It's about 3 cups of ricotta. This is just 2, by weight, 15 ounces, not by the measurement, okay? So this is about 3 cups. And then, as I did before, in a lasagna that I made that you haven't seen, but I have cracked my eggs one at a time for you, making sure that they're good. There's nothing in those eggs that we don't want to spill over into our ricotta. Just like that, isn't that wonderful? And then, now I am putting spinach in this lasagna. It's gonna be layered, it's gonna be a portion of the layer. And you don't have to do this, but I just love spinach in my ricotta. I know, I'm just that way. So if you take your spinach, let me show you this. Some pieces here. If you just stack them on top of each other like this, kind of line them up like this, and make a little pile, kind of give it a little tight roll, and take your knife and just cut it really fine like this. And be careful, don't cut your fingers off. And Tiana, get out of that. My dog's in my little trash over there. She was wanting that ricotta and those empty mushrooms. Now see, there you go. You got some lovely, just beautiful chopped spinach. Oh, let me get my little scraper here. I just love these things. And I'm gonna just add that to that ricotta. It just does something to me for the sauce. I don't know. And then we're gonna give this a mix. Now, ricotta has a rich flavor to it. Oh, and you know what? I'm gonna let y'all in on a little secret. And I almost forgot about it. It's a little bit of sour cream. This sour cream is gonna help smooth this out. And if you'll look at this, you can kind of see it's thick and lumpy. I'm gonna get it mixed and I'm gonna get it together, just like that. but this sour cream is gonna give it just a little something extra. So, I don't know if y'all have seen it or not. Oh, here it is. I love these new sour cream packets. Just a little squeeze. Love it. Sometimes I kind of mix it like this because that water sets in there and you'll squirt out water. Now, because I've added this, I'm gonna add probably just about that much. I'd say that's probably about a half a cup. You're just gonna mix that in there real good, just like that, okay? And I see how that smooth, look how beautiful that is. Just looks lovely, smooth and gorgeous. So I'm gonna spray my pan with a little bit of olive oil so it doesn't help to keep it from sticking. Now, as I'm layering this, I want to tell you a few things. I like to put a little sauce in the bottom of my pan first. I don't like to put the noodles, just straight noodles, into the bottom because I'm always weird that I think the noodles will stick and it'll mess up my whole situation. So just a little bit in the bottom. And see how easy those noodles just pull up? Look at that. Bam, they just pull right off of each other. It's just lovely. We're gonna layer this, noodles, sauce, ricotta, spinach, and cheese. So we have our noodles. Now I'm gonna put my sauce on here. I'm gonna spread that out. You don't want it to be too thick at first, and it needs to be thin because you wanna make this at least 3 layers, okay? Now you're gonna want to add your ricotta. Now see, it's not as thick, and it's just gonna go on there lovely like that. I just like to do a couple dollops. Just like that. And then we're gonna spread that ricotta like this, okay? Just beautiful. Then we're gonna take us a handful of spinach. This is a little time consuming, but you'll be glad that you did it once you're done because it'll be really pretty when you cut into it. Now, once I get this layered, I'll come right back and I'll show you what the next layer is, okay? So I've got my spinach spread out. So if you come over and take a look at my spinach, you can see how I've got that done. Now, we're gonna use a total of 4 cups of the whole dish, but I'm gonna take some fresh mozzarella here, and I'm just gonna sprinkle that across the spinach like that. Okay, just like that. Lovely. And then we're gonna do 2 more layers just like this, okay? And so once we get that done, I'll come right back to you, okay? It took me just a few minutes to get this lasagna finished prepared. Now, I told you earlier, it's a little time consuming. Take your time, don't rush it. Don't throw it together. You're just gonna end up with a pan of a hot heaping mess. It'll probably be good, but it's not gonna be in the shape of a lasagna. Now, it's important as you're building this from your Build Your Station location that you take your time. You're making this for your family or your friends. You want it to be pretty. Like I told you, you eat with your eyes first, so make it beautiful. As you can see here, I've got my lasagna all prepared, and I've layered that up. And my last layer is 1 more topping of the bechamel sauce with the vegetables and a topping of cheese. Now I'm gonna put more cheese on this when it's done, when it's almost done cooking. We're gonna put this in the oven at 350 degrees for about 35 to 40 minutes. I'm gonna put a cookie sheet up under it so if it bubbles over, it doesn't fall into the bottom of my stove. There's a lot down there that needs to be cleaned out. Now, I was trying to talk about Dash's rating scale earlier, and I didn't get to it because there was a lot of information to cover, and I just want to take a moment to do that real quick before we put this in the oven and get going. Is that budget. This is, fortunately, still within a good price range, and I'm rating it a 3 because it's about $30. The total ingredients for this dish alone, minus my wine, was $26.72. For health, you know, anytime you have fat, a lot of butter, and cream, and those type of things to it, it's not that healthy. The healthiest thing in this dish is the vegetables, but we fatten them up with all the cream and the butter. It's going to be lovely though. So, but I'm rating it a 2. It's not a 1, it's a 2, between a 2 and 3, because it has a lot of vegetables in it. Skill level, I'm going to rate this a 3. It's kind of intermediate. It's not easy. It's time consuming. It's a lot of preparing and chopping and building and getting it together. So for those of you out there wanting to give it a shot, go for it. Send me your pictures, send me your comments, ask me questions, and I will guide you along the way on the next time you make one if it doesn't turn out the first time. Now, I love kids and I always try to keep them in mind, but unfortunately, I'm not so sure kids are keen on lasagna. Especially this type of lasagna. It's full of vegetables. Now, if you have a child that just loves vegetables, that's fantastic. They'll probably eat it up because the white sauce is lovely. So keep that in mind, but I'm going to rate it a 2 because I don't think kids are going to like a vegetable lasagna very much. And then my last category is leftovers. This is one hell of a good Mama Jama for leftovers. Once this mama sets and cools and you slice it to heat it up, it's going to be lovely. All right, so let's get this mama in the oven and we'll see you as soon as she's done. Well, welcome back, y'all, to Dash's Sous-Vide Kitchen. So we've been busy. Lasagna finally got cooked. We topped it with some cheese, as you've seen. The lasagna took about 45 minutes to cook because it's pretty thick and heavy. And I wanted to make sure it got hot through and through. And so we topped it off with cheese and let it cook an additional just like 5 to 8 minutes to get the cheese melted. And remember that when you pull something out of the oven that's been in there that long and this big, it's going to continue to cook for quite a few minutes. This has been resting for about 20 minutes. You can rest it for about 30 and you'd still be okay. Remember, the longer it rests, it's still going to be pretty hot, but the longer it rests, it's going to be easier to cut and you can have a prettier presentation. Because if you cut it too soon, all of your ingredients is going to fall out in between your noodles. So just remember that. And so what we're going to do now is we're going to serve it up and give it a taste. And let's see how it goes. Be generous with your slices. I mean, this lasagna is your main meal. It's not a side dish. Yeah, this is still a little hot. So this first piece ain't gonna be pretty when it comes out, but it's gonna taste good. I bet it will. Oh, look at that. It did just fine. Look how beautiful that is. Just look at all that loveliness on the inside. That is gonna be good, honey. Let me tell you. Slide that off of there. Put that over there. I'm gonna grab me a piece of this garlic bread. Now. Bon appetit. That bechamel sauce, it's just perfect. Just enough Parmesan cheese in it. It is creamy, not over salty. Oh, you can taste the flavors of the vegetables throughout. It's a really great mixture. Let me try this bread. You gotta try the bread. You can actually go to my Instagram. I'll have pictures, and I'm gonna post the recipes there for you as well. So you'll be able. I'll post the recipe for the bread. It'll be really good. Anyway, thank y'all so much for joining me. Thank you for taking your time out to watch this video. Please try the lasagna. Let me know how you do. Send me pictures, send me comments, ask me questions. I'll be glad to help you. And from my kitchen to yours, recipes of love and blessings. God bless. Bye, y'all.